So if you've ever shopped at Morrison's, or you've gone to the train station, or you go and shop at the Shires or the Leamington Retail Park as it's now styled, you would have probably noticed a building just on the roundabout there, a building that started to appear in about 2016, 2017, and that is the global headquarters of Vitsœ. And I'm very pleased to have Mark Adams with me here. Mark is the director of Vitsœ, and he's going to explain a little bit about what this incredible organisation is all about. So let's just look around us. Tell us what goes on in this remarkable headquarters and factory.
And we term it as a building because of the variety of what goes on in here. And some people might be surprised to learn that it's actually a .com in here, because we are making our Lego for grown-ups, and we are sending it to 90 countries around the world from this building in Leamington. And that Lego for grown-ups that we are best known for is a shelving system that was designed by the German industrial designer Dieter Rams, and he was head of design at the German electrical company Braun through the 60s, 70s, 80s until the early 90s. And so in himself, he's 93 years old now. He was is now seen very much as the major influence on Johnny Ive and Steve Jobs and what they did at Apple, and the way in which your iPhone looks, indeed even the way your MacBook looks, and besides. So we make the furniture of Dieter Rams right here in Leamington and send it to all of those countries around the world.
So this furniture you send to 90 countries around the world. Give us a quick insight into the catalogue. What sort of furniture are we talking about, Mark?
Well, very little. That's what's so important about Vitsœ, and that's why I say Lego for grown-ups. We have a set of parts, a kit of parts, if you call it, that we are arranging multiple times a day for precisely your needs. We are never, ever sending out the same order twice. Yet all of those parts, they are all standard parts, just like standard Lego bricks. And whether you are using it to store your books, put all of your electrical equipment in, on and around, housing your large TV and the boxes that go with that. We were extremely busy during COVID as everybody's lives were turned upside down, and we absolutely straddle that line between home and work, and therefore as ever more people were having to work out how they, their partner, their kids could all be working at home, suddenly the insight was, wow, okay, Vitsœ can do it in all sorts of weird and wonderful spaces.
So if we think about a certain well-known Swedish furniture manufacturer, which everyone will have probably gone around their warehouses, their showrooms, looking for inspiration over the years, what sets Vitsœ apart from a sort of a mass production furniture organisation like that?
The people, and let's go with the people before we go to the product. We've had a worldwide advertising campaign. Every single ad that appears is a feedback email from our customers, and pretty well all of that feedback, real feedback from customers, is centered around the human relationship that they have developed with Vitsœ. And so in a way, we're using our products as a way to develop that human relationship. So I would say that human aspect first and foremost, and that's what our customers most often comment upon. But secondly, the product, the shelving system for which we are best known, it absolutely works. It is 65 years of refinement to get it into the condition, the state it's in now, where you can add components today to the system that you had 50 years ago or your parents had 50 years ago. So that absolute backwards and forwards compatibility. And we are working on that all of the time. So the product utterly works. Our customers come to totally rely on it. Our repeat custom business at any one time, 50 to 60% of the orders coming through this building are repeat orders, people coming back for a change in their life. And then just finally, on that, whichever that Swedish company might be, but I saw an interview from the head of design a good few years ago where he was asked if there was one product that you could have, and he said Dieter Rams's shelving system from Vitsœ.
That's a nod, isn't it? That's a good sign. You're a product manufacturer, but this is an exercise in sustainability and durability. Can you give people an idea of, if you like, the philosophy behind Vitsœ?
I've hinted the evolutionary process that we're constantly going through, the fact that I'm a biologist, I'm an evolutionary biologist. Maybe that isn't entirely a coincidence. So we're constantly working on the product. Our virtue as a business is that we sell invisible furniture. It is the backdrop for your life. But our absolute vice as a business is that we sell invisible furniture. And so most people are completely unaware of it, never see it, because it is doing absolutely as little as possible. It is determinedly fading into the background, and you see that writ large here in Leamington, because we have a building that is determinedly fading into the background, and yet when people step in through the front door and take in the naturally lit, entirely timber space, and you just see the sense of surprise and amazement of what they have found behind the modesty of that exterior. And that is Vitsœ, is that once people find us and discover us, then they come to utterly rely on us. They pass it down from generation to generation. We hear of people putting it in their wills because they want to ensure that when Granny dies, that the offspring don't just chuck it in the skip. At that point, you realise that you are doing something right.
So that's Vitsœ as it is now and what it offers. Can you take us back to the beginning, please, Mark, and how the organisation got started, and indeed how it ended up here in Leamington?
I was buying furniture from a shop in the West End of London, and I knew the owner a little bit because I'd bought a few bits from them. And I walked in one day and they were installing this black shelving system on the wall, and I said, well, what's this? And he said, oh, well, it's this guy, German guy, Dieter Rams, designed all of that stuff for Braun. I was able to show just enough interest that a week later the owner of that shop rang me up and said, well, Mark, would you like to work for us? And in the next couple of 3 months I spoke twice on the telephone to Niels Vitsø. And shortly after all of this, I'd delivered and installed my first shelving systems. That shop went bust, very sadly, and I looked around the wreckage and thought, oh, crikey, what can I take from this? And I jumped on the plane and went to Frankfurt and introduced myself to 73-year-old Niels Vitsø. And in that first trip of a couple of nights, I said, could I set up a company in Britain to import and distribute your furniture? And that was where it started, and that was the 80s into the 90s. Then I get the phone call in March 1993 from the bank saying we're going to close it down. Over the next 2 years, we then bring it back to Britain and we restart the production from scratch in Britain in 95. Then we outgrow London, and as we're outgrowing London, we go, okay, where are we going to take this business? And I happened to say that at a House of Lords committee on reshoring manufacturing, and afterwards an MP came up to me and said, oh, it's really interesting what you were talking about there. And he rang me a week later and said, well, would you come and visit my constituency? And I said, well, where's your constituency? And he said, Warwick and Leamington. On that basis alone, central amongst our suppliers, a connection back to London, we visited. Then the local council started showing us various sites. Then we narrowed it down. The most expensive site was the old Foundry site, but it was central. We could walk into town. We could walk to the railway station. We could cycle here. Our customers had always said, if there was anything we can ever do to help, please let us know. So we put, at the end of 2013, the end of 2012 into 2013, we issued a mini bond to our customers where they could lend us a minimum £5,000 each. And we raised £8.7 million directly from our customers. to buy the site, design the building, and build the building. And today, all of those bondholders are still on board with us, and the only redemptions we have had where people have asked for their money back have been Brexit, leaving the country, divorce, and death.
Brexit, divorce, and death, the only three calamities that could result in you.
I couldn't possibly comment.
So for those that haven't had a chance to see the building inside, like I've had that pleasure today, could you just describe it a little bit?
So the building is naturally lit. It is naturally ventilated. You'll see external Venetian blinds, so we're moderating how much light and heat we let into the building. It's all triple glazed. The walls are 1 foot thick, solid timber and wood fibre insulation. This is a building for human beings.
So if you want to check out a little bit more about this extraordinary organisation, obviously they have a website, vitsœ.com. We'll put the details in the blurb alongside the podcast.
We have a shop on Regent Street, but the purpose of that shop was to introduce ourselves to the local community and be much more open, and therefore in the few years now that we've had that shop open, that also has led to people becoming inquisitive. Normally once a month on a Friday morning we have a tour of the building. If you email tours@vitsœ.com, that is where you can sign up for the next tour. And so these are all of the ways that we have been trying to reach out, and much more besides. We are now gradually getting those inquisitive folk to knock on the door, and I think that is a delight for us, that our patience is starting to pay off.
Mark, thank you so much for giving us an insight into this really fascinating business.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure and an honour. Thank you, Tim.
Thank you.